Good morning. Welcome. I should have cleaned up what's behind me. I didn't realize what a mess it was behind me. But welcome to Lunchtime Live with Material Girls today. Excited to have you. Excited to be back for another topic. I am getting over a cold. So I do apologize. I have not coughed all day until 5 minutes before I needed to go live. So I'm hoping to be able to make it through here without having a coughing fit with us today. So today's topic, we're going to talk about updating the firmware on your machines. We're talking about machines that have USB ports on them. Mostly embroidery machines, but the newer 4 series also has USB ports. So if your machine has a USB, it can be updated by you. If it does not, it is updated when the machine comes in for service. We always check to make sure that all the machines are at the most recent firmware. Now, why would you need to worry about a firmware or need to see if it needs to be updated? When Bernina adds presser feet, embroidery hoops, things along that lines, we need to get those into your machines so that you will have the ability to use them. So for example, this year, Bernina released the small clamp hoop. Okay, and you'll know that if you have a small clamp hoop, that if you go into the embroidery section of your machine, you're probably not going to find that small clamp hoop as an option. And if you haven't updated, you're probably not going to find the medium clamp hoop either, or even a midi. So we do these updates not just for embroidery, but also for sewing. When we add new presser feet, sometimes Bernina, they may tweak something, the way that a stitch works or a way that a function happens if we find, like bugs in the software. It's the same reason Windows updates all the time and your phone updates. So we do the same, but we give you the ability to do it at home if you want. If that just makes you panic, we do it again anytime your machine comes in for service, or if you schedule a time, if you're here for a class or anything like that, I will make sure that we get your machine updated before you leave. But the goal of Lunchtime Live today is to teach you how to do it yourself. So the first thing we need to do is we need to navigate on our machines to find what version you're at, because you may have no idea where to locate this information. So on the machines, excuse me, we all have this gear, okay, on all the current line machines. We all have this gear. My 5s and 4s, you may have to hit the home button and then your gears will appear up underneath of the bottom of the screen. But we're going to go into the gears. And once we're in the gears, we're going to go into machine settings. So we're going to choose the option of the machine. Hi, Miss Indy. Hi, Miss Ann. Welcome, everybody. Once we are inside of here, well, we have a few minutes. Let's talk about what's in here. So the first option is a planet, or is the world, okay? And this is where you would have the option to be able to change the language that your machine reads all of the documentation in. So if you went to help or your creative consultant, it would read to you in whatever language you have selected here. The light bulb has to do with the screen brightness as well as your light bulb brightness, and the screen contrast is what's there. So you have the ability to adjust both the screen and the light bulb right here on the machine. Calibration, I'm not going to touch this one because we're not going to calibrate the screen. If you come in here, it immediately comes to a white screen. You're going to follow the crosshair around in 3 locations. And then the machine will come back, and you're basically kind of recalibrating the touch on your screen. So if you find that, you keep selecting number 1 and stitch number 2 keeps coming up, we may need to go in and calibrate your screen. You have the factory. This is the icon here represents a factory. That gives you the ability to come in, and over here on the left-hand side, this gives you the ability to mass delete your personally saved embroidery folder and mass delete any of the stitches that you have saved on the sewing side of the machine. Okay. On the right-hand column here, when you have the same icon but you have the picture of the factory, this is factory resetting. So your factory resetting sewing, factory resetting embroidery, and factory resetting the entire machine. Okay. I don't go in here and factory reset things often, but if a machine comes in for us as a trade-in or anything like that, we always come in and factory reset so that we delete anything that you have on the machine. It's just quicker to do it this way than it is to individually open designs and hit delete. Okay. The wrench is, you should be familiar with, because the wrench is where we find the ability to calibrate a buttonhole, information on oiling, parking our module, information on cleaning our thread cutter, and if you are on an 8 series, you'll have the clock. And this is where you can come in and set your clock. And then we're going to come back to this update function. So lastly, we're going to go to the I. I is information. V1.0, this very first icon, is where you're going to find the information that we need to know if you are due for an update. So if I come in here, the machine tells us what software version, what data version, bootloader information, all this other information that's there. Your serial number should be there. The total number of stitches on your machine, so like an odometer. The number of stitches since it's been professionally maintained by a technician. And then you'll also have an option here that says number of cuts since last cleaning. And this is your counter for your thread catcher or your thread cutter. And remember, every 100 cuts, it triggers a sensor for you to clean that thread cutter. So we're going to make note of this software version, okay, that we have here on the machine. And the screen that you're looking at right now is a simulator. So I'm actually going to switch over to an actual machine so that you can see what the version is. So again, I'm going to go into the gears. I am going to choose machine. I'm going to choose information, and then I'm going to choose version. And I'm going to make note that my machine is at 39.06.12. Okay? So we're going to make note of that. We're going to leave that there. And we are going to come over to the internet, because that's what we need here. Oops, wrong one. We're going to navigate to Bernina's website. Bernina's website is going to come up and look just like this at the moment. Give me 1 second. Let me at the very top, you will find in light gray a word there that says support. Okay, so give me 1 second. I have somebody trying to find Lunchtime Live, and I don't want them to miss it, so. Okay. So at the very tippy top up here, there is the word support. Once we click the word support, it comes up to, a lot of times when we come here, all we see are these options and we don't know where to go. But we actually want the very top tab here that says search support for Bernina models. And we're going to come over to the side and we're going to hit the plus sign. And when we do that, you're going to get a big list of machines, okay? And you're going to navigate to the machine that you own, okay? So I am currently working on an 880 Plus in the studio. You can find just basic information about a firmware update, but I'm going to go to the model that I need to update. So I'm working on an 880 Plus. So I'm going to click on that. And up is going to pop the support page associated with the 880 Plus. You're going to find, one, the ability for you to select the language that you need the page to read in. You're going to find a manual. So if you can't ever find your manual or need a digital version of it, this is where you can find it. You're going to have some installation instructions if you're trying to find the Embroidery Plus upgrade. You're going to find the Embroidery Plus upgrade. That's the upgrade that gave you, if you were a standard 880, gave you the Plus format, and the same with 790s. And so that information is there. But what we're looking for is this section right here under firmware. And this second option right here is going to be firmware release notes for 880 Plus 390614. Okay, and if we remember, my machine is 390612. So that means that I am in need of an update. I'm behind a few versions. Give me 1 second, everybody. Cough over now. So we can see that I need an update. Okay, so we're going to come. I can have this download firmware instructions. We can download the firmware release notes, and then we also have the ability, this last option is the actual firmware. So I'm going to look at download instructions first, because I want you to be able to see how to walk through this. There is a set of instructions available for you. Okay, so up is going to pop PDF. Now you're going to look at it and be like, 20 pages? Okay, this document is written in 4 languages. Okay, so it is 4 pages is all that is necessary for this information. The first thing that they tell us that we need to do is work on getting the appropriate USB stick to be able to do an update, okay? And they recommend that ensure that the USB stick works on your machine, okay, and that it's formatted to the FAT32 file system, okay? That's there. And I'm going to walk you through, and it walks you through how to format it. I'm going to also do that in a moment. So we're going to format the USB stick. We're then going to download the firmware, and we're going to unpack the firmware onto the USB stick, and then we'll take it out of the computer, and put it in the sewing machine. Okay? So, a lot of people, that probably just caused panic. Those were words that did not make any sense to you. Don't worry. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm just going to click on Firmware 880 Plus, the very bottom option, the actual firmware, the one with the little sewing machine with the gear that tells me this is a file. So I'm going to click that file, and the system's automatically going to download this to my download folder. Okay? If you want to see what is changing in this update, you can click the release notes. So it tells me in this release note here that it's going to give me the compatibility with the new embroidery hoops. Okay, so it's going to give me, it's going to optimize the SDT module options as well on that. And then the rest of the pages are in other languages. Okay. So we're going to minimize this, and I'm going to open up my USB screen. Okay. So my USB drive on my computer. Okay. So on my computer, I have a USB stick plugged in, and over here, there's my USB. You want to make sure that the USB stick is empty. Okay, we want to not have anything else on it because we don't want it to be confusing for the machine to know if it's reading the right format and things along that lines. I am going to right-click on this USB, and I'm going to click on the word format. Okay. So up is going to pop another box, and it's asking what file system I want to format to. And I'm going to format to the FAT, okay, FAT32 file system if it's available. I'm going to leave this one just at a default FAT. We're going to see if it cooperates. This is an older Bernina USB stick, so I'm going to see if it's going to function with us. And we're just going to hit start. If you have files on this USB stick, it's going to delete them, okay? So don't go and format a USB if they're not backed up somewhere, okay? Click through, format complete, I'm good, and I can close this. I'm going to go into my downloads folder because that is where our firmware was downloaded to. Okay, so I'm going to double click on downloads. In this very first folder here, I'm going to double click on it. It says firmware Bernina 880 and so on and so forth. Now inside of this folder are 4 files, but this folder is zipped. Okay, so if you remember, when we look at this folder out here, you kind of see that little zipper on it. That means that he is compressed. He's zipped up. We can't just copy and paste the files out of here. We actually need to extract them. They zip it to compress it to make a smaller file for you to be able to download quicker and to be able to download, period. So once we have downloaded the zipped file, if we open the zipped file, double click on it, you're going to see at the top there'll be an option here that says extract all, and we're going to click on that. Okay, when you extract all, this is the box that's going to open. I am not going to touch anything in that box except the word extract. And by not touching anything, it's going to just extract all the files right to my download folder. Okay. If you are comfortable with changing your file directory, you can, but I would just click the word extract and it will open up the extracted files for you right here. Okay. Now, once your extracted files are open here, we're going to copy them and paste them to your USB stick. So I'm gonna just drag a box to select them all. You can also do Control A, and that will grab them all. I'm going to click up here at the top. There is a function there that says Copy To. I'm going to drop that down, and I'm going to choose a location at the very bottom, and you can navigate to your USB stick and click Copy. Or if you are good with copying and pasting, you can select all of these. You can hold down your left click and drag the files over here on your Explorer tree to the USB drive. Yep. All right, give me 1 second. I gotta grab another USB stick. So the USB stick that I currently have in there is not large enough, and it gave me a message. So give me 1 moment. If your stick's not big enough, you're gonna get a message. 1 second. Let's go grab one of my 40,000 USBs that I have. Let's see, I think this one should work. Yes, we're gonna delete all of that. 1 second, I'm gonna close this E drive. Okay. So I'm gonna right click on my USB, I'm gonna click Format. You see that it says File System FAT32. I'm gonna hit Start just so that I can make sure that my USB stick is completely empty and closed. Okay. So now in my downloads, here are my 4 files. I'm going to copy them and I'm going to drag them to my USB drive. Okay, and the system is working through copying them to the USB stick. Hello, Miss Tina. Takes a moment. In the instructions, there's also, in the firmware instructions, there's also steps if you use a Mac computer for you as well. Once I have the copy and paste is there, so if I click on the USB drive, I can see the files that are on the USB, and all 4 of them are there. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and I'm going to eject my USB stick from my computer. And we're going to come over here to the machine. So I have my USB stick. I'm going to insert my USB stick into the side of my machine. So it's in there. I'm going to walk out my cookie crumbs back to the sewing machine so that I can get back to the wrench. When I'm in the wrench, I'm going to hit the word update. So the other thing about updating your machines is that if you have things saved to your machine that you don't have saved elsewhere, I would back them up before you do an update. Just in case something should happen, you have all of the appropriate information saved somewhere. So what you can do is not on the USB stick where your firmware is at, but put in another one, come in, follow the same path, and you're going to hit this top option that's going to say, take my saved information and move it to the stick. Okay? It's going to move every detail to the stick that you need. And then after we do an update, if the update for some reason doesn't save your files, you'll be able to put your USB stick back in and say take from machine, take from USB, and put back on stick. Okay? In the update, when we hit this update, it triggers to back the machine up, but I just suggest if you have something that you just don't want to lose, that you just back it up twice. Okay? So with my USB stick plugged in, I'm going to hit the word update, and we're going to take a few moments. You're going to see this little spin, and then you're going to see a black screen. Lights are going to go out, and you're probably going to have a little bit of a panic, but don't panic. Okay? In a moment, the screen will reboot to the black screen with Bernina, and you're going to have a little progress bar that appears. We do not update your machines with embroidery modules attached. Okay? Take your module off. Do your update on only the sewing machine, and if there is an update for the module, when you attach the module after you're all done, the next time you attach the module, the machine will come up and say, let me update the module. Okay, and so that will come up and tell you, there's the black screen. Give it a moment. There it comes again, and here's my progress bar. It says checking, loading data, updating programmer, bootloader, all that information. We're going to I know my machine needed updated. This machine did not have the newest hoops in it. It was missing the small clamp hoop. That was specifically the one item that I realized was not there yesterday when I was doing some other filming. And I was like, well, then it's the perfect time to be updating or showing you how to update your machine firmware. So sometimes it takes a good 5 minutes. Sometimes it could take 10 minutes. We just leave it alone, okay? Walk through it. Now, for some of you, let's come back here to this. If you do, depending on how far back you are out of update, okay, you may need, when you, on a 7 and 8 series module, they went to requiring you to input a serial number. And so if you do your update, once the update is complete, it may ask you for you to enter a serial number. And so your serial number can be found on the back of the machine, the little barcodes that are right there in the rear of the machine. It is an 8-digit number. It starts with the model number. That is not your serial number. It is the digits after the model number. Okay? And it actually has you type it in twice. Okay. All right, we are progressing. The same thing for as we were in machines for software. Okay, you have software support. Here is where you can look at updates. So if you're still on version 8 software, if we come in here, you'll find drivers, you'll find license transfers information. Your updates are all listed here on the side as well. Version 9 updates automatically when the software opens if you have it selected to check for updates. Okay, so you will be receiving, for those of you on version 9, we'll be seeing an update coming out very shortly for you that's going to add the new hoops and things to your software, as well as a few other items. Okay, and we're almost finished. So when the firmware is updated, the screen goes black again. Don't panic. The sewing machine is going to reboot. And we're going to give it a moment. It's like a watch pot when we're all sitting here, you know. Watch pots don't boil. Always seems that the machine takes twice as long to boot up when we're sitting here looking at it. Okay. Boots up and it says time for regular service. There we go. Dr. Mike, it's telling me I need to take it in for service. Here is where the system is sending the saved details back to the machine. So my personal settings are being transferred back over to the machine, as it should. So I'll still be able to find all my saved embroidery design, saved stitches on the sewing side, any combinations, things like that. Once that's done, it shuts down and it's going to reboot. And then on this reboot, it should come up and tell you that if it was successfully updated or not. Okay. Okay, update successful. Congratulations. The automatic update has been, software update was successfully completed. We wish you many hours of enjoyment with your Bernina. I'm going to hit the check mark. I know I need to service. I'm actually going to shut my machine down one more time, pull the USB stick out, and reboot it a final time. I don't like to immediately start using it after it just worked through that reboot section with telling me that it was updated and things like that. I just like to shut it down and have one nice clean reboot. And one more time, the machine's going to tell me that it needs to go in for service. And then we're going to verify that it is correct. So once you've rebooted, I'm going to just go into the gears again, machine settings, information, version, and now that number matches the number that I downloaded. Okay, so I have 390614. Every machine model could be on a different number. It's not, my machine could be different than your 790, could be different than your 740s, okay? I just know when I open this, I should be able to come in here, and there is my small clamp hoop, and there's my medium clamp hoop. So all my hoops are now there and ready for me to use. Do I have any questions? Because that's firmware updating. It can be overwhelming. It can, but don't panic. If you are not great at getting things to a USB stick and you're local to me, not a problem. Just bring me your USB and write down what version your machine is currently at and bring that information to me, and we'll download and get the files extracted and on the USB stick for you so that you can go home and do your updating. Or when you bring it in for service, we will take care of that for you. Do I have any questions about updating and the firmware on your machine? Okay. Cleaning and maintaining is also important. So you want to make sure that you also do that cleaning and maintaining as well. And if you remember, under here's your oiling information that you can come in, and the machine will walk through the steps for oiling. The broom is going to, on every machine except for 8 series. The 8 series, you have 2 options. This is clean your thread cutter. This is clean your machine. Everybody else, with the exception of the 8s, are going to go into cleaning the thread cutter and walking through the steps for cleaning the thread cutter. That's there. Okay. All right. Well, that is what I have for you today. I hope that you found that informational, and we will be back next month with another Lunchtime Live topic, and I hope to see you all real soon. Thanks, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.